welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have a great recipe for you. This is cheesy corn grits. Now grits are a bit of a southern recipe. Chef Caleb, of course, is from Texas originally, and the picture you see here is one of our very favorite applications for this, which is grits and brisket, an amazing breakfast, very popular at Chef Caleb's restaurant when he had it. And we're going to start with some ingredients. So here's our grits. These are stone milled grits. We're going to use some water and some salt. And we're going to enrich those with some flavor. So we've got some butter, some cheese. We're using Asiago today. And some heavy cream. This is 35% cream. And we're just going to start by getting the grits and the salt together into a pot. And we're going to add our water. And we're going to start this on a medium to medium-high heat. We do want this to get up to temperature pretty quick. We're going to give it a good stir to make sure that it's all well combined. And then we're going to bring it up to the simmer. So you do want it at a pretty aggressive temperature until it comes up to the simmer, and then we're going to reduce the heat. You can see we're just giving it a good stir here. Now these are stone milled grits, which means they still have little bits of hull and some stems and such in there. For anyone who doesn't know, grits are actually a pretty coarsely ground cornmeal similar to polenta, and essentially you just cook it for a good long time and it makes this sort of soft polenta. It's also a little similar to something like cream of wheat, and it's quite delicious once it's been spruced up a little bit. On its own it can be a little plain, but they are delicious. So after a little while, this is after it's been simmering for quite some time, you see it has started to thicken up a little bit here, and it's starting to, we've skimmed any little bits of stem or anything off the top, and it's starting to thicken up quite nicely. Now you do want to keep stirring it pretty frequently. It doesn't have to be stirred constantly, but it does. If it's left unstirred, it will burn towards the bottom. So while that's cooking a little bit more, we're going to get ready with some of our other ingredients here. So we're just going to grate the cheese on the wide setting. The Asiago you can do this with. If you're using a tougher cheese like, for instance, a manchego or something like that, which would also be amazing in this recipe, you might want to use the smaller holes on your grater. And we're just going to get all of that cheese grated there. All of the amounts are going to be in the description below, but for all of these flavorings and seasonings, you can really personalize this as much as you like. So now you can see it's very, very thick. This is about as thick as we want it to get because it will thicken more once it's off the heat and a little bit more liquid evaporates. So this is about as far as we want to take it. At this point, we are going to do our seasoning now. So in goes the cheese. And we're going to season that also with a little bit of Tabasco and butter. So that's about half the butter there. In goes the Tabasco and also the cream. And then you just want to give it a very gentle stir. You want to make sure everything's being well combined and that you're scraping the bottom of the pot as you're doing this. So making sure that everything's coming up, you're mixing everything together. You will see a skin form at the top. That's fine. You can stir it in. There's no problem with that. It's not going to change the taste or anything. That's just fine. So you want to give it a good stir, and from this point on, you do want to keep stirring it until it comes off the heat. It's likely that it can burn at this point. So a little bit more seasoning. We're going to add a little bit of black pepper. And you can see how nice and thick. It's got that nice glossy sheen to it. It's good and thick. It has cooked well. It doesn't have any aroma of raw corn anymore. And just make sure that you're scraping the bottom and making sure that it's all well combined in there. We're going to take it off the heat. We turned off the heat just there. And now's a great time to taste it and adjust the seasoning if you want to adjust the seasoning. So you can see here, that's about as far as we want it to go. We've turned off the heat. Now these are electric burners, so they stay on the heat for a little while. or the heat stays on for a little while as they cool off. But this will continue to thicken just a little bit as it cools, so you don't want to cook it all the way to thick. And then we're just going to prepare our grits and brisket here. So we'll show you a little montage of putting the brisket together. All of your ingredients have come back together. We are just going to get everything together in a bowl here. So we're going to start with a good generous helping of the grits. We have our beautiful seared brisket that we have heated up in our cast iron here. There will be a link in the end of this video to our brisket video. And then our really lovely sunny side up egg. And don't forget those green onions. They are super important to the overall flavor of this dish. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So that is our grits and brisket. So I really, if you haven't tried grits before, or you have sort of you've heard a pretty bad opinion of them, I do urge you to try them. They are delicious if they're done right. Grits and brisket is such an amazing, rich, and filling breakfast. It's fantastic, as I said. It's a very popular dish at Chef Caleb's restaurant. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.